Hey, so first things first, I made a video on this thing and I ran into problems. Yeah, that they're typical problems, with meshes and stuff. And upon working on it, I said, I'm gonna just not do this video after all. I'm gonna post it as unpublished and give you the link, but it started to go south pretty quick. Now, this eye, if you want your eye to do that, I can show you how to do that. It's kind of a, isn't, well, it is an optical illusion, but I found this on a Jason Voorhees and how they did it, and I mimicked that on yours. Basically, you got the outside of the eye that's normally there in that little area, but I removed that by cutting it out. And on the back side, you have an eyeball that's like the back side of the ball. Uh, like if the eyeball was inside out, and you're looking at the inside of it, but being able to see the other side through it. That's what you're got to do to make this work. You got to select all those faces there. Once they're all selected, and you got them all on both. It's going to be you do one side, the other side gets done too. But once you get them all selected, so you got them all, what you're going to have to do is go into. Oh, I put FBI because the guy in the damn sweater, the way he was sitting there crouched down, even with the wrong textures, looked like it's one of them FBI agents that are in training and they're jogging around that damn lake or wherever they are, and they got the sweatsuits on. You know what I mean? Those sweatsuits they wear. That's what it reminded me of. But that was a creepy son of a bitch, man, sitting in there like that. With that texture being no material, it looked like Darth Maul looking at you. And he just subtly moves, which is another thing. I'll tell you about that. Anyway, select that stuff, make a new material with the plus sign, pick the texture there, and assign. And it'll assign the texture just to that thing, just to those faces. Uh, I picked the wrong thing here. I went back and I saw that I may not have it here, but I had you had one of these 001s, 002s, and that shit comes because Blender don't do copies of things well. But you can fix that. That's not a problem. But anyway, the pants are like they are because the UVs don't line up at all. I mean, not a damn bit at all. They don't even come close to lining up. I don't know what was originally here. It looks like a person. It looks like a person made with Make Human 2.0, what I use sometimes. But um, the I don't know what the hell. It's different somewhat, but the UVs don't line up. So that made me think. Well, maybe, just maybe, the uh, texture was something different at one time and got changed to sweatpants. Because it looks like it was the UVs for legs, real legs, with shorts on, or it looked like almost like a thong in there. But that's what was originally, or looks like what was originally there. And then someone decided, no, I'll just go the sweatpants route. So I'll show you an easy way to just do that. If you just want to make them sweatpants, an easy thing to do, just do that and not have to fool with it. Um, but yeah, about the animation, you cannot have an animated DAE as a flex body, which is the mesh part of the J beam. It don't work. It won't work. You have to either make the thing like a regular J beam, like a real dummy, or you can animate the texture. That's about the extent of it. Since the game uses its own type of mass balls for mass weighted balls for the physics, they're like balls with weight connected with springs, is what they are. Um, and that's what controls the physics of the J beams. That's what the J beam's made out of. It's made of them balls, which are really the vertices of a 3D mesh. But the thing that connects to the damn vertices, that's the spring. That can either expand or contract and have all different kinds of properties. So if you got two balls that weigh a lot and you got a spring that's connecting both of them, and you can make that spring stronger, weaker, break, uh, then if you subdivide that damn line that connects the two of them so that it's got more points in it, then it can bend. If it ain't got that, it ain't bending. But that's basically the gist of it. And of course, the polygons make up um, you know the parts that are in between the beams. Polygons, the way the collisions work is um, you got the balls and you got the beams. So let me load it up and I'll show you real quick. I think he's already loaded. I'm not sure what I was doing. I'd gotten out of here because I said, no, I'm just going to do the video different. All right, here he is. So if you look at a wireframe, any wireframe, I'll just make a box. I'll show you what I'm talking about real quick. You go to the box and you go in edit mode, tail up to show you the vertices. If you were to export that as a J-beam, these would be the nodes. Each one can have their own weight, different weight. They can also be anchored so they don't move. But if you anchor two of them, ain't shit moving. Unless it's like that, it can swivel on that. But anything can make it where it won't even move if you got too many anchors or the wrong. I mean, if you got it anchored wrong. This being the line is called an edge in Blender, but it can expand or contract. That's how it can do as a spring. And then of course you got the damping. That depends on how much it can, wiggle, how much it absorbs that wiggle, and disperses it before it makes the model do that. That's the damping. You got what's called pre-compression, which means before any mathematical values are even set, the thing is predefined to either be pushing out or pulling in. So right from the get-go, it's already wanting action. It's already doing something. Then you got the spring strength. How much spring strength does it take to make that thing bend or make that thing expand? And if the beam spring strength is more, exceeds, if the total force exceeds that beam spring strength, which you can set, you may already know all this. I don't know. If you don't, then yeah, I'm kind of giving you like a kind of a crash course on it. Let me pull him up real quick. Or pull up the J-beam for one. He don't have a J-beam. One with a J-beam. I'll show you what I mean. It's very easy. Once you understand it, it's like simple. So this is my dummy here of me. It was a Spider-Man model that I made originally that I started to convert to a human. Oh, that looks like a human. So in here, you got the name of the mod. You got a lot of different stuff, right? These are where all the flex bodies go. And then you give them a group number or name or something. Inside of Blender, your flex body is going to be the name of the mesh. Say this is the head. Exactly how it's spelled out there would be how that's not Beam. That's not Blender. That'd be exactly how it's spelled out here. Head. You can give it any name you want for a group. And see all these different models, like this would be like the legs, the arms, the brain, the different things that are going into this model. They all got their own group names. So down here where the nodes are, which are those dots, the vertices that make up a 3D mesh, each one of those are, they exist in 3D space. They have a X, Y, and Z axis, whether their up and down is, their side to side, and front to back, and 3 sets of numbers, right? That's right. These are. Each one's got its own name. Each one of those nodes have a name, and each one's got a place where they exist in space and time. They can self-collide, true or false. Here's where the weight of each one's determined. However, if you want to, you can take the weight and do something like, well, you ain't gonna do it in that because that's the zip file. I got another one open? Probably not. Man, can't even get this right. It's been one of them days again, but at least I got some stuff done. I got a lot of nothing done pretty much. I did work on some of the requests. This is just one of them. that has been waiting a long time. A lot of people's waited a long time. Hell, I've waited a long time to get finished with them. I'm still waiting. I can't take on so many things at one time anymore. It's just not going to happen. What I'm going to tell folks is that, I'll probably do it, but it's going to be a while. To please check back in 2 weeks. And if it's not time, then in another 2 weeks. That way I don't have too many things at one time going at the same time. And everybody ends up waiting a long time that way. And if you get a problem with one person's thing and the other person's thing is also ready to be made, then it just puts everybody on hold. Or I got to tell the person, look, I got an issue with it. I may not be able to do it, or I'll come back to it another time or later, or I don't know enough to do it. But I'll still try to get most of the stuff done to a certain point anyway. So I got to figure it out if I don't know it. Try to figure it out. So in our vehicles folder, I'll just pick a different. What the hell? I must have it open somewhere. But shouldn't it pop up if that's the case? Oh, quirky ass shit. That's a shortcut to where I'm already at. Oh, my dumbass. I tell you, man, I don't do worth a damn trying to explain things at the same time as do them. If that ain't obvious by now. That same one, I'm pulling it back up in here so we can see it. So I can type a little stuff in here. So say that node, say these are the top nodes that are on top of the box, but you want the bottom nodes to be heavier. You would just copy this thing here and you would just put it where you want it and change it to a different weight. But just know everything in here, all this stuff, anything that follows whatever's here will remember whatever the last thing was that it's seen. So if you don't do anything else, all the rest of these will be 1.7 all the way down, however many there are, even different ones, unless you got new things to specify the weight. Also, the way it knows which one of these vertices creates the 3D mesh that's going to be that's going to be part of your mod. You put the name cube, for example, for a flex body. When you give it a group name, once you export all these in Blender, you take the nodes and you copy and paste them into here. You put them where that group name is, wherever you put it. Like where's it at? Here's the head. So those numbers being exported from Blender in their own document, they'll come into the scene and you'll just move the stuff from one to the other. Here's an example of what an exported one from Blender looks like. This one is for the brain. That's not currently in it, but will be. The exporter in JBeam, for Blender, it'll export the nodes, the beams. I've got a lot of beams. The triangles. This will load by itself if you got an info file and you got a folder set up for the mod. You don't have to have a DAE for this to load. What will happen is if you load the game with only this, all you're going to see in here is just nothing, unless you say Control N to see the node names. It's not a damn JBeam, that's a model. Dummy. You'll see the node names, right? And you can tab through them cycle through them with Control N, and it'll show you different things like what it's made of, the node material rather. Which most of these will be metal. You press it again, it tells you what the weight of each single one of them are all the way around the car. That's the one that's got the type of material it is. It's plastic and there's metal. I'm not even sure what the hell that one is. One of these is some of these are new. I ain't seen some of these. I guess that's how many Newton forces are being pulled or exerted. Average force, how many Newtons. So the ones that are getting more Newtons and more red, it looks like, and the ones that are not getting that many Newtons. I think. fixed the hell out of one. See, oh, it broke. That's because this is my mod that I made of the truck that breaks it more than the other trucks. So I'm not gonna get to see it bend much because it breaks so much easier. But I do see where, yeah, it does show you and enforces how much it does. And notice, used to be the only way you're going to see probably that is if you showed the beams, which is Control B. That shows you the basic beams, but if you Control B 2 more times, it'll show you which ones are support beams, hydro beams, broken beams, pressure beams, bounded beams, anisotropic beams, a lot of beams. And if one breaks, it turns red. You'll see it break. You see the purple or the supports. Those are really just for making something not bend the wrong way, you know, like a hood, for example. So like a hood's going to bend. If you don't have something like that, it's just going to bend all the way as far as, you know, you don't want it to bend too far. See, those support beams are weak. You can't really make them too strong because they are made to break. They're just for support. Instead, what they do to make things support is they use more beams like hidden glue, kind of like toothpicks, connecting all the stuff together with a different strength setting and whatnot that act as your what do you call it? I can't think of the name of it right now. They use it's the names. It's the name to describe like what angle iron would do in a car or something. If you're making a kit car or something, it's like just basically extra enforcing extra. That's gonna bug the shit out of me now because I can't think of the name. Oh man, what is it? Damn thing called? What they call it? I mean, that's just a note to put and tell you what they refer to it as. I can't think of the name, man. It's killing me. Rigidifiers, rigid. I wouldn't remember that tonight. Yeah, basically a rigidifier. It's got a deform limit. It's got a strength limit. It's got uh, you know deform groups also. So when these deform, they trigger a deform group. I haven't messed with that. I've messed with the break groups where if one breaks, they all break. I messed with that. I have not messed with this in this way. I've messed with it in the way that, um, and that might be right. I may not be remembering right because it's been a while since I've done it. That might be the one that handled the texture swap like I did with my car with the metal fender that turned scratched. But I thought that was I don't know. I'll get to that eventually in here, but probably not tonight. But that there's a lot of different types of groups that you can have that do different things based on what the other ones do. So back to our project, our person here in Blender. Um, if you were to export that cube, for example, you would just file, export JBeam cube. You'll have to save your Blender file first. It does that to so if it crashes, I guess it doesn't mess you up too much. You know, at least you saved your file. So if it crashes and you didn't save it, then it's on you if you lost stuff. But you'd export it as JBeam, and it would tell you it's exported one JBeam successfully. You have to have at least a quad. You have to have at least 4 sides. If you got 5, it's not going to export. It's going to say you got what's called n-gons. An n-gon would be like that, where it's just one polygon. And the way you'd have to get that to export is you'd have to connect these with F. Oops, hit F. But what I prefer to do is I'll just select the whole object and I'll go into edit mode and tell it to in the edges here to the faces here, triangulate faces. That'll solve the problem with the mesh. Now it's going to triangulate them anyway when you export them into, as a DAE if you got that set. I don't know what use the quads are in a game, but you can use a quad. I don't use them, but they've used them. I'm not sure they benefit, but there probably is one. So that's their cube. And the way they work when they interact with one another, these balls, when they come in contact with a beam, they detect they collided. The ball will then take into account all the data of the beam, whether the beam spring, what it's set to, all that stuff, and then it'll basically behave based off that. Problem with this, if you're wanting to make some things in the J-beams, you'll never be able to do it. For example, you could never make a Jenga game because the sides don't actually touch at all. It's when a ball touches an edge. And it's very easy to say have two objects like, I don't know, say you're making a bridge and you got one like that, one piece of the bridge like that, which is one flex body, kind of like the head over there, but that would be like Pier 1 or Pillar 1 or some Pillar 2. And they'd have their own grouping just like the head does so that they're unique. But if one's overlapping the other and them things are not touching like this, say one's like this, slightly over the edge on both sides there. If you were to be in the wireframe mode, or probably better than that. Yeah. So the balls that make that up, that ball's not touching any beam. Neither is that one. They're in between beams. So what's going to happen is when you start the simulation, load it in the game, unpause it, whatnot, what's going to happen is going to do something similar to this. And then you'll be like, oh, so that's why that dummy keeps falling through your car on the ground. Yeah, because it doesn't really have any inside collisions set up for catching stuff like that. They had to do something special, by the way, to get the rocks to work inside the damn dump truck thing they did for one of those activities they made. Because they were doing this, basically. They were falling through. That's what they'll do. They'll fall through one another till either one hits another one and it catches or it hits the ground. All models will all interact with the ground unless you have it set so that uh, it's called collisions. I mean, I know we all know what collisions is, but there's two different kinds. We got the collisions that's for the ground, which is that one. And then we got the self collisions, which are for the balls themselves, like the head making contact with the torso, for example, if they were to fall on one another. In like this case here with this example, self collisions turned off, that would just fall right through that no matter what. Self collisions turned off and collisions both turned off, then they'll both go through the floor and fall to infinity or wherever the ground plane is or where the bottom of beam is, it'll fall to there if you got collisions turned off. A tip for anyone who wants to make things like a swinging hammer, for example, something that rotates and knocks the crap out of something. Normally, if you say got something like a hammer, let me make something real quick. It's better for me it's easier for me to do this as illustrating it than to try to explain it because there's so much involved. Trying to like explain it, man, it makes the brain think of so many different possibilities, ways of explaining. This way is better, I think. That's all I'm saying. It seems to make it easier to get my point across without trying to over-explain something to the point that people are like, God damn, man, I think I get it now, man. I think I get it. Yeah, I try not to do that. I'd like to get these done even better with less instruction. So they're shorter. I just do it like this. So there's our hammer. Set the origin here. This is just for demonstration purposes. You wouldn't move that thing normally. So you got your hammer, and you got a ground plane, which is the game ground. I'll make that a quick color or something. And we'll make the hammer it'll be fine. So normally you'd hit the ground and stop. It would not be able to do one of the things where it continually spins with the collisions on the ground turned on. So if you wanted it to do something like that, but still stay in the same place, then these two nodes here that make the end of it up, this one and this one, for example, you'd find out which ones they are, because in the game you can easily press Control N to see all the node names. You would come back into here and you'd find them, those two that you just seen. And then you would take this one here that's fixed, false, and make it true. And then the ones after that, of course, you want to be false. So then when you go back, those two ain't moving at all. It can only rotate, right? That's all they can do at that point. That would be how you do that. And it'd keep it in the same place. And it would go through the ground if the collisions are off. So it could really smack the crap out of something. The thing gets to spinning. I found that very useful for making things like a wheel that spins, where the wheel part partially is subterranean, so that it's more like a speed bump that's spinning. You get what I mean? So you got this cylinder. And it's just a big wide wheel. I got one in mod. I shared, by the way, of that. I got small ones, and I got a super large, overly sized large one that spins. But before, I didn't know how to do it where it would not get stuck in the ground. So what I had to do is I had to make a tool that was basically a mesh cube that, when touching the terrain block and then using the key that tells it to put terrain block to mesh, it would or I use it to basically hollow out the ground so that the wheel can spin without the ground interacting with it. That was how that's pretty much how that's done. Pretty much. Hold on a minute. I always forget which one that does that shit. Sometimes it's a pain in the ass to just simply remove something out of something else in here. But I don't fully understand it enough. I was trying to do this kind of like in real time, where I'm just explaining and kind of quickly throwing up these little examples of things. Yeah, I don't even know what the hell happened with that. It's crazy some of the ways the Blender doesn't make sense to me sometimes. I'm kind of new to it. I've only been doing it as long as I've been modding. I had to learn it. So you got your hole in the ground, right? You got your wheel. That's how I had to do it. And it was a little work to set it up. It wasn't something right away it worked right. You kind of had to tinker with it a bit, get the right amount of wheels sticking out of the ground and the right end of the ground and it not touch. But with the new way, with that um, collisions turned off, if you were to go and edit this thing and you were to connect these like this, take like the scaffold, which is the knife here. You pick a node and you pick another node and then press enter. And if one crosses one in the middle, say, it's going to make a node right there in the middle. And that's going to be the node you select. That's going to stay stationary, allowing the thing to spin on an axis. That's how you would do that. There's another important thing to know about mods, J-beams. If you make your thing a J-beam, if you got a cube, for example, and you got it set up, it's a 3D object, but you don't have any supports inside it. This is what it's going to likely do under certain amounts of pressures or loads or whatnot. Since there's nothing inside connecting them like horizontally across, then it's going to end up doing this. See what I mean? Depending on the strength of the springs and all, it may stay up a while. You'll still get one in between when it triangulates it. But if you really want it to stay in place, you would need to like take the nodes here and connect. And since there's no mesh in there, it's empty. Instead of using a scaffold, you hit F and it makes a beam or of edge, whatever you want to call it. And doing something as simple as this will make it a lot more sturdy and not fold over, unless of course you want it to fold. Then in that case, you wouldn't put them. But you also can, in edit mode, you can subdivide it for more precise thing. So it'll fit around whatever the thing is better. You'd have more of these points to mold this thing onto your DAE so it lines up and stuff. You want this to be as close to DAE as possible. Not that you would want to do this because it really does a crappy job. But say you made you a human. You got the skull here and it's a sphere. Where did it go? And you want to make a J-beam for it. You damn sure would not use that as the J-beam also because of the amount of edges it's got. All them little squares, each little line would become a different spring, and each little vertex would have weight. So that becomes a problem. You get too much of that going on. What you could do, which is a very crude way to do it, you could take something like the box and shrink wrap it onto the ball with less subdivisions. You could do that. By applying a deform shrink wrap modifier. Of course, you can offset it so that it's larger or smaller. And the more subdivisions that it's got, the more it's going to contour to that, but then the more beams it's also going to have. It's going to start to make it more difficult to make it do what you want it to do. You can have too many subdivisions in a J-beam and it will just be hell to make it function right without a ton of damn supports. I made a stop sign once and I thought it would be great to have it subdivided many times so that it can bend very realistically, but it made it a jiggling mess is what it did. It looked like jello sticking out the ground being held up by some invisible force. That's how bad it was. Terrible. It was really terrible. But you can subdivide the edges is what I'm trying to say, and it'll get even better when you're not in edit mode. You can see it actually is better. But that's essentially what a J-beam is on any model. It's just an exoskeleton. Basically, as close to the shape of that as possible. Problem is if you get some weird shapes like this, for example, and these are like that, your model, if the J-beam isn't like that, and instead it's doing something like this, that's a lot of data in between there and there. That's just hollow, empty space. It's nothing in there but empty, right? Looking at it in this view, it's just a lot of empty space. What's going to happen is when the when this thing bends, let me apply this. When this thing bends, actually, say that's not even there, even better yet. Let me do this real quick. Get this back to a. Say your J-beam's like this, but your object's like that. And the J-beam, under different forces, whatever is exerted on it, it bends this way, right? It bends. That's not going to bend for shit. And if it does bend, it's going to look like this because it's trying to do too much that it can't do. It can't stretch that far. It can't bend that far. If there are not enough subdivisions, it definitely ain't going to bend. It's going to end up doing one of these deals where you see it. I call it the bleeding polygon because like these little things will like shoot off to infinity, in different directions, kind of like Superman's temple, little things sticking out everywhere, right? Because it don't know what the hell to do. I guess it'll behave erratic. It'll bend really crappy. If you ever get a car mod that's one of these quick deals that they made in like I don't know automation, or they changed it and put like a Disney car body on it. You watch these videos of these Disney cars and they wreck. They look like crap, man. They don't because the J beam's not right. Also, because they're trying to use one J beam for the entire damn body of the shell of the car. Which if you can do it, I've done it, but it's damn sure not as good as if you cut the car into all the different pieces and let each one have their own properties. That's ideally the best way to do it. The problem with humans, back to your dummy here, is they don't have an actual ragdoll setup system thing. So, like when he bends, you got to have him cut too, right? Or you're gonna have you a Stiggy or something that don't bend at all. I forgot. I think that's the thing's name, Stiggy, the one that was like one of the older older mods. So what you'd have to do, you'd have to come into here. The hands are already separate. You'd have to come into here. You have to go in to edit this thing, and that's too many. The topography of this thing is less than desirable. It's all over the place. It's not clean. So likely, if this bends at all anyway, you're gonna get some weird deformations and stuff. Even if the J beam is close, unless you do the ice cube method for each part, where you make the most basic ass cube possible, like this. I mean, this just from what I know from doing it. I don't know. I could be wrong. I may not be telling you exactly right. But the way I understand it is if you got the arm, you want to make a mod, different upper arm, lower arm, and it's cut to hell. I mean, the topography it's not too bad, but it's also not great. It's like somebody did a decimate thing, but didn't read topography, and it's just kind of all over the place. You do the ice cube method where say that hand, for example, its J-beam will be that box. Maybe you got one node in there. Maybe you got one. And you could connect it to the node of the box for the other part of the arm. That wouldn't be a box necessarily exactly, but you get the idea. The most simplest form that a triangle would be the most simplest, like a triangle. That'd be the strongest too. But something like that, you do that as usual. You get as close to the hand as you can. At least that's what I would do. And then these nodes here, you got to think, well, they got to connect to something, and you're not going to connect it up there or down there. So you're going to try to get these somewhat close, but still stay pretty much a solid object that doesn't bend, is what I'm trying to say. And you got to plan ahead so that the next piece of the arm, when you cut this arm, I'll just move this. Pretend we cut it. It's just a hand, but actually, I'll just do it. Hell, I've did this much. Why not just explain it better? You take the part that you want to cut. You'd have to cut it in a way that it's kind of like a G.I. Joe figure, or like the arm that goes to the other part of the arm is kind of like a ball. You know what I mean? And the other part be more like a cup, so that one goes into the other one. Therefore, if you were to separate it into a separate object, and that's too bad. That's bad. Mine wasn't no better. Mine barely are okay now sometimes, so don't feel bad. You'll separate it into a separate object by selection. Then you'll go back to object mode and pick your object. And ideally, you'll cut it in a way that goes into the other pieces, either concavement, or you could do it also where they're like this, possibly, where one's overlapping the other. Why ain't that drawing? Why ain't that staying on the screen? I don't know. It's just another one of them quirky ass things that just happen when you make a tutorial. I don't know why it's not staying. Anyway, you'd make one kind of like that and the other one overlap into it. Because if you don't, when they do bend on the J-beams you make for them, they're going to look like this. You're going to see a big ass hole. What you're going to see, because these are not like really rag dolls. The flex bodies don't actually bend like a rag doll would. They're more realistic as far as how they are real pieces that are bending next to one another. Now, you could, if you spend a hell of a long time, you could make the springs in that part of the arm so that they can bend better, and then part of these bend better. I don't even imagine what would be involved with how long that would take to do. What they should do, if they could, would be great, is if they did like a weight paint mode where you could go into here, you could tell it like all the blue to be not influenced at all. For example, like it's solid, it'll move but it won't bend. And then the parts that are, say, red, or vice versa, it don't matter. The ones that are red or bend the most, and then you'd have like a gradient in between, kind of like this deal here. That's too much, but you get what I'm saying, right? And it's blurred really good, blended really good. Then you would get a situation where that'll bend more on one end than the other. It'll move more on one end, bend more on the other. And if the other piece is not another piece, it's just a solid arm, for example, and you can have it more realistically bend in places that the human body bends. But I know they didn't make this for humans, so I get that. I heard though that the game engine actually was the engine that made the first Tribes game, which are humans that ran around. I played it. I don't know if that's true or not. That was using the Torque engine, which they used Torque, but they modified it so much it might as well be their own game engine now, is the way I understand it. It's a hell of a lot better than Torque was. But Torque had some cool stuff in it too. I mean, I didn't use it, but I looked into it. I read about it. You know, you had destructible polygon objects and stuff like that, but they were basic physics. They sucked. The game actually started on the engine, the Cry engine. Whichever one made the damn game, the Crisis games. The Cry engine, I believe, is what it is. Same one that does the uh, one with the damn boy on the horse with the sword. I can't think. God damn, what's the name? I got the game too. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 or 1. Um, so that's pretty much crash course on just that stuff. There's so much more involved, so much more. That's not even the tip of the iceberg. But people ask all the time about how do I make a mod? How do I make a basic mod? Well, you probably should start with a basic understanding of Blender. You have to have some knowledge of the 3D stuff. Um, you could find a situation where, like maybe one of my mods, I make a human dummy or something, and you want to put your own head on him. Well, as long as your head is put on the DAE in the right place, the textures match what my textures names were. They could be different, but as long as they match, you won't have to make a new texture. And then you're more or less doing a texture or an object swap. You're basically going to say move that head, put a different head in its place. You get it about in the same spot exactly as you can. I mean, as close as you can to the same spot as possible. Change the name to also be the same as your head was. Like if it was like head number 1, this is head number 2, you would change head number 2 to number 1, or just delete one and replace with the other. That way they both got the same name, and then you make sure the texture name is the same for the new one too, whichever one it is. And yeah, you could do it. It'd be a lot easier to do than having to learn it all. I'd say that'd probably be the best thing to do to start learning is just basic reverse engineering. That's what I had to do. I had to reverse engineer things. I had to go through that stuff and figure out what did what. And I didn't know nothing, so all I could do is just change things. Change and load, see what happens. Change and load and see what happens with J-beams. Good thing about J-beams though is you can have the game running and update them in real time, not real time, not like a bridge does with a program where it's instant. Now it would be like you get done in here, you save, you re-export the DAE of whatever it is back into the game folder of that vehicle. Then you go back to the game, you tab back to the game, and you would press Control R. And what it would do is reload the mod. It reload the stuff in this the script stuff. It basically reloaded. So you can update it like that in real time. It makes it easier if you got 2 monitors, you got one on one side, you got one on the other side, and you're tinkering around with the math on one and then watching on the other side what it's doing. It may be complicated a little bit more. You actually got a program for Blender that's a node editor that Angelo234 made, but when I messed with it, it was more advanced in my understanding of the stuff, so to utilize it good. So I use the old one, the old node beam editor, which is horrific for navigating in, but it does the same thing. You see what you see. The number, damn man, get it right. You know what I'm trying to say. Damn it, say it. All this stuff. The same thing you see here, you load into here, and you see it here. You can have multiple things in here. It's great for connecting new objects together, like you're making a human. You can bring in the head, the torso, different things at different times, and you can link them all together here. And it shows you a basic green wireframe. I guess I could just import one. Import the J-beam into there, just drag it and drop it. Normally that's what you do. Drag and drop. Now this is zip. Did it again. Can't load it like that. I didn't move it out of here when I zipped that thing for the backup. I went ahead and zipped it. I was going to share it, but I decided not to yet. But you'd basically pull the thing into it when it's not in a zip file. Let's see, is there another one in here? Here he is. You pull them in here. Now, this is what I got so far done with my human dummy. The legs ain't in there yet. The J-beam's not great. It's not really terrible, but it's not great. I mimicked the same way that the standing dummy, that's the known vanilla dummy. I use their technique basically as far as how these things bend together and stuff. Um, that looks like crap, but that's him basically. And you see how I got him connected with these beams that keeps the head from lobbing over to the side. You don't see that, of course. And then for like the mouth to open and close in the ones that do that, what I have is a hydro in between the pieces. So you say where the mouth is right there, which I didn't end up using this in the end because it was so much more to do to get it to have a working mouth and tongue that I said, fuck it, I ain't doing it. Taking too long to get it right. Because you can get it working, but to get it good where it looks right, don't look crazy looking, that takes more time because it's like making anything out of art. It's like making a clay sculpture and you got to get everything perfect. Not perfect, but you get what I mean. So your hydros would be like connected from there to there, for example. Um, you would just make a beam, but that beam, which we ain't got the beams yet in here, that beam would have its own set of settings that have hydro settings that or the steering wheel stuff. Hydros or steering wheel. You use a hydro, it's like the steering wheel where you turn left, it makes the wheel turn left, turn right, makes the wheel turn right. Um, it's more like a mechanical. Think of a puppet. A puppet with a pole underneath the arm, like they use in the real puppets, where they make them talk and they make them say, "Hey, how you doing? How you doing?" And they get the pole, and someone's underneath it pushing it up and down. That's more or less what a hydro does. But a hydro can also bend and expand these pieces too beyond what their shape is. I used hydros on my fish for the mouth, but I did not use enough support beams, or I don't have enough beams that flex. So what you end up with is a mouth that opens but can open too far. That's a building. That's a basic J-beam building there. Just the most basic. If you want to make the most basic thing, you just make it the shape of the building and put a texture on it. That's the most basic collidable building you can make that's not overly fancy. It's just a box with a picture on it that you can actually hit and move and break, and if you want to break it. I don't think I got the texture anymore. It was a house or a business in Pakistan. I was trying to make stuff for a map. I was just really farting around trying to make some assets, and I made one thing, and I didn't even really make it. I kind of half made it to see how it looked. I thought, yeah, it might work, but I don't feel like making a whole city right now. It'd take forever. I was gonna make all the assets because there wasn't no 3D geometry out there. It's all flat terrain in Google Earth. There's no 3D nothing out there. So it'd been very difficult to make without living there and knowing the area and knowing what things are supposed to look like. But I can look at pictures and make stuff and put it all together, but it's not going to be as good as somebody who lives there. Hell, if you live there, you could have a drone fly around and make you 3D models of things that look real, that you can put in Beam once you lower the poly count, of course. don't think I got the texture anymore. I think I meant to delete this thing entirely. And I don't got it. I'll check one thing and move on if not. That's kind of give you an idea of what it looks like, you know. For anybody that's into making buildings, it's a quick building. Yeah, they're in here. All right. I'm going to quit talking and focus real quick because I can't think right now. Yeah, I told you this was quick, right? That's supposed to be a hole there like a porch. It's just a picture. This is supposed to be on the side of the road, something that when you're flying by, you just see it back there. I went the extra step just to make it into something you could actually run into, but it doesn't behave very well. It's not like a very realistic building, but you can smack the shit out of it if you run into it and break it where the thing's got that can break. It doesn't break realistically. It basically, the triangles break, they disappear. But if you got it subdivided a lot and you got that happening, you can have pretty cool looking crashes that are unique that you don't normally see in the game, like the B-50, B-25 Mitchell, that big ass bomber. I told all of the beams in there that were what they call FLT max, which means they don't break. I use Notepad plus plus. I told all that stuff to have an actual breaking value, and I made it so it's like 50,000 newtons or whatever it is, so that when the plane breaks, it breaks into thousands of little pieces, but not really. It looks like it is, but it's really not. It's just all the little triangles are breaking, kind of like something disintegrating. Uh, but it looks good, and I thought it was pretty impressive. God damn it. Place the building. Yeah, they got physics. It's just very basic, that's all. It's very basic. It's subdivided too many times, so I can tell you that. For that, you don't need that many subdivisions, because this isn't something that's made to bend anyway, but that was just something I did. I thought, well, what if all these triangles break? Would it look unique? Opposed to having just four triangles that when they break, the whole wall is gone. So that was what the exercise was, is to see how many subdivisions it would still stay upright, but yet be able to break in different places and look like it's breaking there somewhat. That was what I thought. Well, what if you took all the buildings from West Coast and made them like this? And you flew through there with a jet engine or something, jet plane, and ran into them all. They'd all break. You'd have holes in them all, but it might look pretty good. I don't know though. This is the only one I did, and as you can see, it's got its limits. But you get a bunch of them, run into it, you can have a pretty good time because it looks kind of cool. This is the advantages of having multiple things that are cars, though, is that when you tab from one car to the other car, well, you have to cycle through all these. That shit takes a while when you got a lot of track objects that break. I'm assuming at one point they're probably going to get it where you got different basic physics stuff for like that stuff like that. Maybe it's even a shader that's just animating or something that looks like something breaking or whatnot. You got that option, and that would make it so you could define all. But what you could define all that stuff. But what would be even better is if they just made it where you could just define in the JBeam. This is not something you can tab to normally, so you can have all your objects and only tab between the vehicles. Right now, you pick that truck. you're going to have to go through all these before you can get back to it. Ain't nothing worse than trying to set up a video and do this. Finally get back to your damn truck. Guy did this with a roulette table, by the way. The thing with the ball that spins around in a circle. He had a bunch of chips out there that you could run into. It was really cool, man, because they all collapsed and it looked really realistic the way they did it. But when you went to reset your car, right, you wanted to reset that stuff, you know, you normally just hit Shift R and it reset everything at one time. But if you want to go to a different car, and say not that car, unless there's a better way to do it than I know of, you're going to hit Tab. You don't have to get to it because they're all together. Alternatively, you can make the model, the 3D model, that to begin with. They're all separated, but they will all have physics and be one object. But you get some weird behaviors sometimes doing that. You do this for like stuff like avalanche, and you want like maybe 100 different colored little white ball or white colored balls to all be kind of like snow coming down an avalanche, which I did that too. You can do it, but they seem to be more prone to that type of stretching that I mentioned earlier, where you got this and they start to deform or move or whatnot, and you start getting this deal here. That's the only thing with doing it that way. And it seems like when you do it, they all seem to all stretch towards the same center of origin. So it's not the greatest way of doing it. It'd probably work for some things, but not all things. This ideally would be better to have every individual building have a break more realistically. These look like cardboard holes that are getting knocked all around by some dummy with a mouse on a car node. You know, they don't look very good. But maybe some people like that. I mean, you don't have to make everything look real. Everything don't have to be real. You can make things somewhat cartoony. I think real is boring, personally. Real color textures are real life. They're not as vibrant as games. They're damn sure not as vibrant as like Avatar movie when you watch it. You know, that shit. They say depressed people when they watched it because they got out of the movie and said, man, real life sucks, man. That looks so much better. Oh, just wait. Once you get your hollow decks and all that stuff, then you probably do all kinds of things, you know. Make anything look like anything. I showed you. I'll get the bus real quick, and then we'll move on. I'm about done now. I think I gave you a pretty good idea, like basics as far as the modding part goes, but didn't really get much into fixing the model. So what I thought I'd do is I would do like a suggestion for the model, and then make a video on that possibly. But I'm gonna leave it up to the guy to tell me if he wants any different instruction than what I told him already about the dummy, or if he wants me to elaborate on anything else. Spawn new. Like I said, there may be another way that you can cycle between. It'd be cool if you could hotkey the particular car to a key, so you press that key, just like in Command and Conquer game, you press the key that you assigned a group of people to, it pick just that group or just that car. I press, I don't know, Control Shift A, and it makes that one. I hit Control Shift B, and it switches to the duplicate. So precise tabbing between. Tabbing with a purpose. Each one you tab to is the one you want. That would be kind of cool. And I'm supposed to get I'm gonna show you one more thing. First run into all these. I'm sure everybody already knows this, but they should have it tabbed the other direction. That'd be even better in some cases. You accidentally pass it, and you just hit, I don't know, Alt Tab and go back one. So you can give it gas. You can pause it actually. Give it gas and press Tab. Give that gas, and of course while holding gas, you press Tab on each one. Whatever the last vehicle is in the thing, it will not do it, but all the others will. So when you unpause it, they'll all be going. I forgot about that damn water there. Shift R will reset them all, but the shitty thing about it will not reset damage for some reason. Maybe there's another key to do that where you can reset, they'll keep going and they repair themselves. I think there is. I don't know what it is. So you definitely don't have stuff like that much in the game. You don't have anybody that took the time to do all that because it takes so long. Alright. The other thing, my dummy that I'm working on. If you want to, the person that's requesting this, I attempted to do this for Tony Cartney with his dummy, but I think maybe they didn't understand what I meant when I said about don't move and use the same lighting. Well, Tony understood, I think his wife took the pictures, and I'm being jokeful here. I'm making a joke because I know how my wife is. If my wife takes a picture and she don't do it right, then I correct her and say, you just need to take your own damn pictures, and that's what I'm gonna get. But I tried to have her do my whole body, like on the outside, wearing clothes, of course, going around me, taking the pictures and making 3D model. Those pictures suck, man. It's not taken by somebody that knows how to take pictures for assets, that's for sure. Somebody's praying right now for me to shut the hell up. That's what's going on. I'm having a hard time talking. Alright, here's my dummy. I'll show you the eyes and then we'll be done. I'll move on. And I'll wait for a response on what to do next. Anybody's welcome to watch this. Of course, I'm making for everybody, but I'm using that model as part of this kind of crash course in basic modding, dummy making and whatnot. You know what? I sat here and said I got my controller sitting right on my damn leg. Yeah, it's time to go on to bed and just rest and get back fresh in the morning. Oh, I'm here all the time, so it's like, I don't ever feel like I go anywhere. So when I'm here all the time, it ain't nothing to really spend too many hours on it. Look at the eyes. This is what I was talking about. I can do for yours too. Just make them blink somewhat realistically. Make it blink slower than that. Get out of here. See what I mean? Fall through. And it will. They'll fall through and go through the floor, and you'll be driving and you'll see blood coming out from underneath it because they're half on the damn ground and half inside the car. What you have to do is make a lot of hidden beams to support it. Kind of like braces that keep it from going too far down, but yet still be able to brake so he can eject out of the car or be behind me around when it crashed. So that's what I did to mine for his eyes. And it's an animated texture, it's all it is. Not really a polygon blinking, it's like a polygon moving. And then underneath I got another layer that's the muscle layer, and then